Greetings people, I am Lucifer Seraph and welcome back to Final Fantasy VII. In the last episode we discovered the Shinra security system is a joke. The company's leading bioengineer either has no idea how biology works, or has a serious bestiality fetish. And motorbikes aren't hindered by stairs, glass, gunfire, heavy landings, collisions with other bikers, or attacks by heavily armoured spiky autonomous death machines. Once the team drops down to ground level, it's time to choose a new leader. Barrett puts his name forward. He has experience being a leader, knowledge of the Midgar underworld, possibly still a few helpful contacts, an actual reason for fighting the Shinra company, a family to protect, and he comes fitted with a Gatling gun with unlimited ammo. The other candidate is Cloud, who has history's worst haircut, inconvenient flashbacks, antisocial tendencies, a desire to show off, the occasional stroke, and crippling tinnitus. And yes, they pick Cloud. Choose your team and equip them as best you can. Welcome to the world map. This barren, desolate land is the Midgar outskirts. Here you can find enemies. The Devil Ride. A chopper bike with 240 HP and no weakness. Strong physical attacks, but otherwise nothing special. Same goes for the Calm Fang, a wolf with 160 HP. They hunt in packs of 2 or 3 but are weak to fire. The Prowler is a variation of the Vice from Sector 5. 150 HP and no weakness. Like the Vice, it can steal items from you and then flee. Kill it or lose the item. And finally the Custom Sweeper. 300 HP and weak to lightning. You can steal the Atomic Scissors from this thing. A powerful weapon for Barrett but close range. Also you can learn the enemy skill Metra Magic from this thing. Naturally, you can only learn enemy skills if you have the E-skill materia equipped. And in my humble opinion, the E-skill materia is severely underappreciated. And through the course of this LP, I hope to prove to you once and for all that the enemy skill materia is the most single useful item in the entire game. The Metra Magic ability itself is pretty weak compared to later spells, but 8 MP for over 200 non-elemental damage to all enemies, can't really complain. Especially since level 2 magic spells are only slightly stronger and cost around 20 MP. Your destination is the town of Calm, a little way east of Midgar. Once you arrive, your party runs to the inn, while Cloud gets to search the town. You can find some items in the houses north of the town, mainly ethers. But one chest contains a Peacemaker, a weapon for a later character. Powerful, but you might want to sell it. The stores have some decent weapons and armour, and you'll always need potions and tents, whereas weapons get replaced all the time. And even though the Peacemaker is stronger than said character's starting weapon, it will quickly get replaced. When you're finished exploring the town, head to the inn where your team is upstairs waiting for you. If this is your first time playing, you'll most likely have no frigging clue what's going on, and so Cloud rectifies this by telling you his backstory. It turns out that Cloud and Sephiroth formed a half-decent friendship until about 5 years ago. Here we see a young Cloud, Sephiroth and a few Shinra grunts, one of whom has motion sickness. Hint hint, plot point, hint hint. All of whom are driving to a recon mission in the country. This is the first time you see Sephiroth and he's actually quite friendly. Quiet, focused, and nothing like the homicidal mass murderer we've been led to believe. Cloud reveals he joined Soldier to emulate Sephiroth, hoping to be a famous hero. A goal he can no longer achieve since the Shinra-Wutai War ended before Cloud could prove himself. They don't refer to it that often in-game, but about 6 years ago game time, the nation of Wutai lost a war to Shinra. That's like Japan being defeated by EDF. Their mission is to investigate a malfunctioning Mako reactor in the mountains around the town of Nibelheim, which happens to be Cloud and Tifa's hometown. All seems to be going well until the truck hits a monster, and considering the size of said monster, I firmly believe the driver was asleep. We now get a sneak peek as to how powerful Sephiroth actually is, and how abhorrently useless Cloud was in his teens. This fight can last a while since the dragon is coded to attack the weakest character, Cloud, knocking him out instantly, and Sephiroth is coded to cast Life 2 when Cloud gets knocked out. Eventually Sephiroth kills the dragon and life goes on. Now I won't be telling you any of the stats of any of these monsters, because A, you don't actually fight them. Cloud gets knocked out and Sephiroth finishes them off, and B, you don't actually receive anything from them, so there's no point. Something worth noting, Cloud starts the game at level 6, Considering the strength of the local enemies, if he survives any of the fights in this area, he should be at level 10 at least. Meaning he's telling the story of how truly crap he was in Soldier. Or at least how crap he is compared to Sephiroth. Which gives us something new to add to the Cloud mental defect list. Okay, we have antisocial tendencies, the occasional stroke, excessive flamboyancy, tinnitus, paracausia, auditory hallucinations. And now we can add number 6, Inferiority Complex. Once the party reaches Nibelheim, Sephiroth mentions his mother's name, Genova. Yep, that headless entity locked in the Shinra research department is Sephiroth's mother. He mentions her father, but seems ill-inclined to discuss him. After Sephiroth enters the inn, you can explore the town. Most of the houses you enter result in Cloud having more strokes. Especially his mother's home. Cloud mentions his mother dies soon after his arrival, and so you'd expect him to remember as much as he can about his last moments with his only living relative. But after a few scenes, his brain simply spazzes out. It's strange when you think about it. It's almost like he's trying to suppress a memory. Selective amnesia. You can enter Tifa's house to invade her privacy, read her mail, rifle through her underwear drawer, and play the piano. Once you're suitably bored, head to the inn and talk to Sephiroth, who's having an attack of nostalgia. The next morning, the team heads out in the company of Tifa, who happens to be the town's best mountain guide. Because bringing a 15-year-old girl on a top-secret reconnaissance mission to a highly secretive facility on top of a mountain full of dangerous monsters is always a good plan. After having your photo taken, hint hint plot point hint hint, we get a nice sweeping camera shot of the reactor. And then we get screwed by the locals' inability to maintain a simple rope bridge. We lose a grunt in the fall, but no one really cares. Head through the nearest cave and the team encounters one of the world's natural wonders, a Mako Fountain. Here, Sephiroth gives a long-winded speech about the formation of materia when Mako energy condenses inside a reactor, and that this fountain is doing exactly the same thing, just a lot slower. He also explains that materia allows the user to temporarily commune with the spirits of the ancients, allowing the user to call upon the power of the planet and cast magic, which begs the question, why does Ares need materia? He also mentions that Hojo taught him this, and that Hojo himself is trying to continue the work of a famous professor, a one Gast Faramis. Also, if Tifa is an expert on this mountain, and all its paths and crevices, why is she so surprised to see this fountain? Once this is over, the party arrives at the reactor. Cloud and Sephiroth enter, leaving Tifa outside in the company of the remaining grunt. This is the same grunt with the motion sickness. Hint hint plot point hint hint. Inside, Sephiroth finds a locked door with his mother's name over it. He swiftly loses interest and identifies the problem, prompting Cloud to fix it. Sephiroth reminds us about the condensing of Mako to produce materia, and invites Cloud to see the extra ingredient put there by Professor Hojo. Apparently it used to be human, but after exposure to extreme amounts of Mako, the result is a homegrown genetic monster. This realization causes Sephiroth to question his own origins, and after what I can only describe as a hissy fit, one of the pods opens, revealing the fruit of this research. This is the halfway point of the flashback, and I suggest you save when prompted. Also, the saving issue I mentioned in the first episode seems to have been fixed, so yay. Returning to the plot, Sephiroth shuts himself into the Shinra Mansion, the largest building in Nibelheim. You can explore the entire building, but Sephiroth is hiding in the basement, the entrance to which is found behind a fake wall on the second floor. We find Sephiroth reading secret research documents written by Professor Gast. The documents talk about a 2,000-year-old apparently dead organism that Professor Gast named Genova. Naturally, the concept of having a 2,000-year-old living fossil for a mother is somewhat disturbing to Sephiroth, and he plunges deeper into depression. He doesn't talk to Cloud and over the next few days continues to read undisturbed and without rest. Once Cloud wakes up, return to the basement where Sephiroth has finally flipped. Using the research notes, he seems to have placed together the entirety of human history, which I will completely butcher via the medium of MS Paint. 2,000 years ago, humans lived happily, in peace and with the ability to commune with the planet. Then came the calamity from the skies in the form of Genova. Half the humans retreated underground, while the other half used their knowledge of the lifestream to battle Genova. Genova was defeated, but at the cost of practically all the combatants. Those combatants became known as the Ancients, or Satra, and their numbers quickly dwindled, while the humans continued to multiply in the safety of their underground shelters. Fast forward to the modern day, the humans have reclaimed the land above, and all but forgotten about Genova, while very few Ancients remain. Sephiroth is the product of genetic experiments to combine the DNA of the surviving Ancients with the fossilized yet still technically alive remains of Genova, making him not only the rightful heir to the planet, but the spawn of an alien who was attacked by the planet's inhabitants. Calling Cloud a traitor, because Cloud descended from the humans that ran away from Genova, Sephiroth storms out announcing he's going to see his mother. But not before torching the whole town. Incidentally, Cloud mentions that his mother was a vibrant woman, in good health, who died a few days after his arrival. Quote, "But when I saw her, she looked fine," unquote, which adds a sense of mystery around his mother's death. I'm no expert on these things, but just a guess, the complete incineration of the entire town just might have something to do with it. You know, I would put relative stupidity on the list, but it's just a waste of memory. All the same, Sephiroth then poses for his most famous screenshot. Back at the reactor, Tifa once again laments the loss of her father, yada yada yada, picks up Sephiroth's sword and runs off to confront him. Not a smart idea, since as we found out in the last episode, only Sephiroth can use the Masamune's sword. Long story short, it doesn't end well. Not that it matters, since apparently Tifa traded her buttocks for solid rubber balls, and her breast for anti-gravity units, meaning she can safely bounce downstairs in slow motion. Help her if you want, but either way, follow Sephiroth into the Genova chamber. Once inside, he'll start bragging about how great his mother is, and how he and she should go to the Promised Land. Sephiroth. Superiority Complex. God Complex. Oedipus Complex. I suppose you could say he's a fairly complex character. At which point he decides to break the containment on Genova's pod, effectively waking her up. Incidentally, if you care for such things, the inscription on Genova's helmet reads, Genova, made in Hong Kong. All rights reserved, 1998. Square Company Limited. Cloud can't believe his friend has become such a monster, and the flashback ends with Cloud challenging Sephiroth to a duel. Barrett doesn't like this ending and demands closure. Somehow Cloud can only respond with assumptions, i.e., I'm alive so I must have won, but there's no way I could ever win against Sephiroth. And even though this story did indeed answer many questions, It also gave us many more to ask, but as Red points out, it's a fascinating story. And that concludes episode 5. Join me next time for chocobos, large snakes, a ninja, and maybe some real-time strategy. Take care of yourselves, guys. Hope to see you soon, but until then, this is Lucifer Seraph signing off. And Merry Christmas.